Hey fangirls and boys, you're watching Whole Lotta Love, and I'm Natalie. I just thought today I would talk a little bit about the Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture palette. I feel like everybody wants to weigh in on this subject. A lot of hate for this palette. It's received a pretty negative reception. And I feel like that's pretty natural considering all of the hits, all of the consecutive hits that Anastasia has had in their makeup line over the past 2 to 3 years. It's almost like they could do no wrong. They were this perfect, super lauded, loved makeup line for years, like the top. There's this super obsession with this brand, and their original palette, their original permanent palette, the Modern Renaissance, everybody's super familiar with this one. This was probably their biggest hit. So I've always liked this palette. It's not like my number one or anything like that. I don't really necessarily have a number one. My favorite eyeshadows overall, and I guess you could say number one palette in that sense is the Colored Rain Queen of Hearts palette and the Colored Rain single eyeshadows. I think that that's kind of like the gold standard of eyeshadows. I feel like they blend perfectly, like it's kind of no effort. You kind of have a professional, amazing look even if you're a beginner. So I kind of started to compare everything else to that. But I do really like Anastasia's eyeshadows. They are kind of pretty soft. There's a lot of kick up when you put your brush in them, and they just, there's a little bit of fallout, but if you're working properly, like you're not just mindlessly patting on your face, you're kind of placing and blending carefully, you're fine. It's not really bad. I do find, to be honest, fallout to be a mark of a not so great shadow. I do have to say, the Subculture palette, I feel like formula wise it's pretty much identical to the Modern Renaissance. You do get, so these are the colors in the Subculture palette. I think everybody knows what this looks like by now. So you do get that kick up when you put your brush in, especially these matte shades. You can kind of see, like, I don't know if that's filming, but there's definitely a little bit of powderiness going on. Unless you're actually trying to get to the bottom of the pan or for some reason feeling like you need to use a ton of eyeshadow, it's not going to be that bad. And for me, I kind of am able to sense, like, going into this palette the first time I ever went into it, I kind of could tell right away, okay, these are like pretty much pressed pigments. They're like a true pigment, pretty intense, especially when going to this color. This is probably one of the most intense eyeshadows I've ever experienced, this Axis color right here. And typically with blues and greens, I find mattes to generate a lot of fallout in any brand. So I kind of went into it knowing, like, pat gently, and then pat on your eye gently, carefully place it. Don't go crazy applying this color. So you kind of sense that, like, if you're, not a beginner to makeup, you can kind of sense, like, as soon as you start using based on the color scheme, how powdery they are when you put your brush in, you kind of know how to, not to go crazy. You're not going to just be, like, kind of placing it as if it were super sheer and you were, like, struggling to get the pigment. You already have the pigment, so it's kind of like, okay, let me just be gentle, be careful with my placement. And that kind of goes for most dark pigmented mattes. I feel like with this palette, the color scheme is kind of, it's pretty intense, and I think that is throwing people off. A lot of the shades you're getting on this side of the palette especially are more like outer corner or liner type of shadows. They're not even crease colors. Maybe a darker skin tone would kind of see some of these as crease colors. I'm not really sure, but the Untamed, Axis, Rowdy, All-Star, Fudge, even Destiny can kind of question, like, some of these, you're not going to be putting those in your crease or your lid, most likely. And if you are, you're expecting an all-around super grungy, dark, a little bit naturally messy kind of look. That's what you're going to get if you put these in your crease or you put them on your lid, and that's what you should be going for. I feel like a lot of people who are criticizing this are kind of doing it with, like, weird makeup methods. Like, they're putting a lot of these shades in their lid, they're putting a lot of the shades in these crease, and that's not really what a lot of these shades are for. You have a beautiful transition here, which is Dawn. This is a super light transition. It's also very pigmented, but this is good for transition. Roxy, New Wave, Edge, Mercury's kind of would be pretty deep, but those are good crease shades. So you would kind of just like stick to those for the crease shades, and then some of these other ones just for the outer corner if you're lining your eyes and don't want to do a wing, or just on, you know, lower lash line. They're all great for lower lash line, these deeper colors, but I'm not sure why a lot of people are doing like trying to do these brand new or just weird eye techniques and then saying, oh no, this isn't good. For most brands, you wouldn't see people going in with like these darker mattes on the lid or in the crease. Like, it's just, I don't know, you know, I think there is a lot of just hating just for like sake of this bandwagon mentality. And that kind of brings me to some other thoughts I had on this palette and the reception that it's getting. You know, Anastasia said calling it subculture was kind of like a tribute to, you know, the Instagram, YouTube subculture, maybe typically primarily Instagram, but of the makeup community. So it was kind of like this, you know, homage, like giving back to us. I do really love the community that's been created around, you know, like Instagram and YouTube, and just like this, it's a little bit more underground. It's not the typical, you know, magazine, like less is more, no makeup. Like, they're going for the heavy wing, the smoky eye, the full beat, so to speak, that everybody's come to call it. Like, it is a subculture movement in a way, and I really love it. And for the past couple of years since I've gotten more into YouTube and Instagram, I feel like it's really fed my life in like a really beautiful way. Like, I feel like I am part of the subculture. Again, I do want to stress I just started YouTube. I really don't have, you know, a following. For me, you know, to kind of come on here and be able to say, you know, like, these eyeshadows work, and I'm also, you know, kind of an intermediary. I'm not a makeup artist. I haven't been fully committed to YouTube or Instagram where I spend, you know, every single day perfecting my makeup technique so that I could come on and put that perfect, precise picture. Makeup is a lot of precision. To be good at makeup, you need to be very precise, very clean lines, proper blending. You don't want to make a mess. And a lot of people criticizing that know that. So especially when you're working with intense dark pigments, you know that you need to be precise. So I'm not sure why a lot of these people are doing like, you know, kind of just packing it on and being like, oh, it's not great. It's, you know, I don't know if they're just used to sheerer shadows. I mean, a lot of these people are Morphe affiliates. Morphe shadows are pretty good and they're pigmented. So I'm not sure where this like weird confusion on how to use these shadows. I think it's really a bandwagon mentality. I think it's a little bit sad. You know, I know she's not giving it to us for free, Norvina or Anastasia. Some people are getting it in PR, and I've noticed some of the more popular people weren't getting it in PR. So that's kind of interesting too, but you know, in that sense, there is kind of like, this is supposed to be a palette for us, for the subculture. And I think it kind of shows the ugliness of this particular subculture with the social media and the negative comments that you see, the trolling, all of that kind of stuff. I think it's kind of, it really brought out like that dark side of this subculture that I don't love, and part of the reason I've been apprehensive to start a channel and to really put myself out there, and I've been a little shy because there is this super negativity, you know, kind of coming in, like this idea of like this one look that's good, and then anything else, you know, anything that's more amateur, anything that's, you know, kind of doesn't want to conform to that ideal of these super clean airbrushed photos on Instagram where everything is so perfectly clean. The eyebrows are so clean that you have to cut them out with concealer so there's nothing out of place. You know, everything is, you know, so much beat, and that's the kind of poster look for this subculture. But I think the beauty of any kind of subculture is that it's a place for misfits, you know, people who don't feel like they belong in the mainstream for whatever reason. You know, like I think the mainstream is honestly not that into makeup. Most of the women I know, you know, they put on a dark or a red lip for like you know, their big events in their life, and they feel like they're really getting dressed up. I go to like the grocery store, and it's a big day out, and I will wear this not because I feel like I'm so hideous that I need to wear it or anybody cares, just because it's something, you know, that I kind of like to do, something that makes my day, you know, I feel more artistic, and, you know, I love it. So it's just part of who I am, and I kind of don't fit in, and I like that the subculture kind of has a place for me. This palette works. I'm not really sure what the backlash is about. You know, it's not going to work for everybody just because you posted a negative review or you feel like you got it and it's not blending properly for you or whatever. You know, those light shades aren't what you expected. These two, you know, they are purposely sheer, but if you need pigment, you know, in your shimmers always, and that's not what you expected, you didn't like it, you didn't like it. It's just this gang mentality of breaking this thing down that's bothering me, especially when this palette was created for the community. It's kind of like throwing it back in their face. I do have tremendous respect for Anastasia Beverly Hills and Norvina. I feel like they went really, really bold with this. It kind of backfired. They took a risk and it backfired on them. I feel like they wanted this thing to be next level pigment. I don't think I've experienced eyeshadows. Very rarely do I experience eyeshadows that are this level of pigment, and most eyeshadows I use are pretty pigmented. So I do applaud the risk taken in this and the, you know, refusing to settle. They wanted to make something that was incredibly intense, something that's very smoky, something you have to experiment with the colors that you're using. It's not your typical warm palette where you know exactly what's going to be your transition right away. You know exactly what's going to be a crease right away. You know, like it's just something you have to think about a little bit, and it's not the same warm scheme we're always getting. And I get that that's throwing some people off. And some people probably don't like these kind of grungy colors. You know, these colors, two colors, were pretty unnecessary for me to have both of these in the palette. You know, this Axis and Untamed, I think they should have gone for Axis because this one's a little bit bolder. It's just, you know, these are kind of colors that generate a lot of fallout, and they're not meant to be super pretty colors. So I think it's just the scheme is throwing people a little bit off. But this gang backlash is, you know, it's a little bit too much. It's bothering me, especially when the palette works so well. So this is the look I did today, and I think this is one of the examples of something a little more wearable from this palette that you could do. I did All-Star, actually, in All-Star in the outer corner, Roxy in the crease, Dawn above the crease as a transition, and Electric in my inner corners and brow bone. And then I went in with Adorn and the lid color, and New Wave is on my lower lash line. And I feel like it's pretty. It's really, you know, it's well blended. Everything blended into each other nicely. The colors are very pigmented. And I feel like, you know, every look I've done two really carefully thought out looks. You know, I kind of played with this when I was just hanging out at home. And, you know, I have to say, if you don't have the right primer down, if you're not giving it thought, I did look a little messy, some of the things I was trying to do. You know, I did put this Rowdy in my outer corner, but again, I wasn't really being deliberate. I was just playing, and it looked incredibly messy. But I'm going to, you know, try it again at some point, and I'm sure it'll look a lot cleaner because I will be more precise. I'll have the primer on. I'm trying to do something nice with it, which is what you want anyway. You're trying to do something nice. You're not trying to create a disaster, which I think some of these people are doing in their reviews. Again, you know, if you just didn't like it, you know, you used it, there's a million products that people don't like. Maybe you like something that's harder pressed or more sheer, that you want that watercolor look, or you want to build it up, or you just want that standard warm tone eyeshadow palette. That's like, for me, the warm tone palettes became so big because it's like you want to be able to kind of play with color but do it in a safe way. So I do really applaud, you know, the modern Renaissance, you know, kind of bringing those, you know, experimental colors without it being like Axis, which is like kind of one of the ugliest eyeshadow colors you could think of, but still looks really effing cool when you do a smoky eye with it. You're not getting those pretty soft looks with this. You can get a, you know, soft look with this, you know, if you kind of just stick to Fudge as your dark color. That's like a pretty traditional, you know, outer corner color, and just kind of keep it with this soft Dawn and, you know, Adorn. You have your soft color, even, you know, maybe this one a little bit edge. But any of the other colors you're going to use are going to be pretty, kind of giving you an intense, smoky, rebellious look, I guess. And I just wanted to show the look that I did with Access and some of the darky colors. I did All-Star, which is one of the dark colors. I put that in my crease, and Electric on the lid. So that's the look that I did with Access and Electric. And I feel like people are complaining about Electric too. I feel like it is sheer, but it you know, it has a beautiful pigment to it, and it does pick up. You know, I did this look, I did it, you know, pretty quickly, and I felt like it was like a pretty badass smoky eye right off, and this was before any of that backlash came in. So I wasn't trying to make it not work or trying to hate it. You know, I was very excited about this palette. Maybe it isn't a palette for beginners. I remember really, you know, not loving Kat Von D Shade and Light Matte eyeshadow palette when it came out because I wasn't as experienced when I got that palette, and that's very similar to this. There's a lot of pigment. I was overwhelmed by it, so I'm like, too much pigment. Like, why do you, there should be kind of a mid-range of pigment, but then I realized, you know, when you kind of have the precision that you need when you are a little more experienced, you can work with the higher pigments and you just place them better and blend them out more. It's just an experience thing, so maybe this isn't a palette for beginners. I don't think it is with some of these colors. You know, these are editorial colors. You know, even the Modern Renaissance is, you know, has this intense pigment. It might be a little more suited for beginners just because it's more traditional color tones, but still. And I will say the shimmers are, you know, some kind of funny. They have that foiled effect, Adorn and Electric. Particularly this one's a little powdery. This is probably my least favorite, the Cube in the palette. It's just kind of the duochrome, been there, done that. I'm not as obsessed with it as some people. I feel like it's pretty powdery. It's just pretty basic to me, to be honest. But Electric is incredibly unique color. Adorn's, you know, pretty smooth. Not too unique, but very pigmented, very smooth. With some of these colors, I've noticed this in my Juvia's Place palettes. Colored Rain, again, that gold standard doesn't have this problem for me, but a lot of these kind of colors do. When you get these foiled colors, you should go in with a denser synthetic brush. If you go in with something more fluffy or something with natural hair bristles, it's not going to pick up properly. For these, you really should be going in with something that's a little bit dense. This is just an e.l.f. brush here, it's dirty. Something pretty dense and pretty, and synthetic. Those brushes will pick these up a lot better. So that's just something to keep in mind for any kind of, you know, foiled eyeshadow that's not picking up on your brush. It could be that you're not using the ideal brush for it. So this is, you can see it right there. This is Electric. It is a little sheer, but your pigment is straight up. It's there. It's beautiful. And it's very unique. So I really do like that color. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the rest of this collection, fall collection for Anastasia Beverly Hills, which is getting overshadowed by this ridiculous controversy. It is a truly ridiculous controversy. It's just makeup. So I want to talk about the lipsticks. So they did a 30 lipstick matte color range, which is due to their line Anastasia, 30 colors, beautiful colors. Oh my God. Like, they're doing a lot of really dope gray colors, like ton of nudes, few fun colors. They always take it there. They always, you know, are very on the cutting edge. This matte lipstick line is no different. I think these colors are incredibly beautiful. They're pretty matte. They do have slip. They're creamy enough. They're not like super, they don't get tugged too much on your lip, but there is that little bit of tug that's gonna make it long wearing and truly matte and not slide. I don't have any lip liner and I don't feel worried about it going everywhere. The color that I'm wearing is Rogue. It's this color right here. You could see it on my lips. It's really beautiful. It kind of has a brownish vibe to it, but it has just the right amount of like reddish brickishness so that it's not that just super edgy, like I'm so cool brown. Like, it's just a pretty, like, it's a more wearable kind of brown. It has a little bit of that rosewood feel to it. They actually have a color in the line called Rosewood I want to get. I was kind of thinking this color would be more like that, but this one has a little bit more deeper brownish tones to it. The rosewood one is kind of like my ideal lipstick color, just like a pretty rosy, reddish, little brickish, kind of muted red. Those are like my ideals, so I think I'm going to get rosewood and probably pick up a few more of these. But this is Rogue. I have it on my lips here. One of the other ones I'll swatch out is the other one I got Resin, which was actually described as a mauve, but it's in the gray family. I don't really feel like it's too mauvey. It's like maybe like a purple gray. You know, that's how I would describe it. Or like a lilac gray, mostly gray, but definitely has that purpleness to it. So I'm just gonna put this on my hand right here. That's so pretty. I can't wait to wear this. It's actually pretty purpley, maybe a little bit more mauve than I originally thought, so I guess that's why they described it that way. So this is Resin, very edgy, but you know, a little more wearable than a straight gray because it has that purple element to it. Definitely cool tones, very pigmented, you could see right off. I'll actually kind of swatch right next to it, a little overlap just to see. You're not getting too much tug, but it's not slipping so easily, like it's kind of like I have to move it across slowly. So yeah, this is Resin, very pretty color. And the last color I got was Staunch, which was described as like a sandy peach. So I guess it's peachy, but it's like more nude peach, which I think was very interesting. I feel like they definitely did some really beautiful, like unique kind of colors in this line. They brought out a really strong 30 color range. So this is Staunch. Yeah, so it's kind of like a dark nude with a little bit of a peach to it. Really pretty, very wearable. Staunch, like it's definitely giving your lips color and deepening your lips. You know, it's a noticeable color. It's not, you know, it's maybe not really your lips, but better, but definitely wearable with a lot of looks, not a statement lip per se. So that's Staunch. So I actually really do love these three colors. I think I made good choices. And the last thing I wanted to play with here is the Liquid Glow. They came out with liquid highlighters in this fall collection. The one I have here, this is the Liquid Glow by Anastasia. This is the shade Perla. I think it was described as like some kind of white gold or something. I don't know, it kind of has like a little bit more champagne-y to it than I expected, but it is really beautiful. So this is the Liquid Glow in Perla. I went really heavy with this kind of swatch thing. So that's what it looks like, really super heavy. I'm gonna put just like a little more next to it, more sheared out. So you can kind of see like when you're putting a little bit on your face in reality how it's gonna look. So this right over here, you can kind of see, it definitely has that reflect. I'm wearing it on my face today. It looks really pretty in camera. In person, I have it above my eyebrows and on my cheeks. It's really pretty. It's not the most, like the Cover Effect ones are. Their liquid highlighters are much more intense, but they're also harder to blend on the skin. This one kind of goes in very smoothly. It's a little bit in real life. I think the lights are just catching it pretty strong on my camera, but in real life it's like a nice sheen to the skin, but it's not this super blinding metallic from outer space. You could see your, you know, reflection in it type highlight. It's pretty. At first I thought they were pretty spark. I guess, yeah. Another thing, I just kind of like really smoothed it out, almost taking it off. But there's definitely a sparkle to these, like a chunkier shimmer. It's not like glitter. There's no glitter in this, but you could definitely see the shimmer particles when you look up close. That's one thing I really find is very signature for an Anastasia highlight. They're definitely giving you those particles of glitter or shimmer. It's not just like a straight, smooth, metallic or a smooth shimmer. It definitely has that dimension to it, and I think they make pretty nice, pretty amazing, bold highlights. So this is nice. It's a little bit more subtle than their powder highlights have been in the past, so it's a different alternative. And it just depends on what you want in your highlight, but I think they're pretty good. You could definitely wear them very sheer. If you build it up, it's going to be more metallic, but it's pretty smooth. There is that dimension of shimmer, but it's not chunky glitter. So you're getting a pretty smooth look. You can get it pretty blinding, but it's not the most blinding highlight you're gonna get. So I think those are all my thoughts on the Anastasia Beverly Hills Fall Collection, which includes the incredibly controversial Subculture palette. Oh yeah, so I do really like this collection. I'm excited to play with it even more. Definitely excited to get more of the lipsticks. Thanks a lot for watching. Please subscribe and have a good one. Bye.